Hello everybody. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about my connection with Tesla. In 2012 I started dibbling into all sorts of theories and philosophies, and I discovered Tesla. Now Tesla said, if you think of anything or everything in terms of frequency, energy and vibration, then you would be able to solve all the riddles in the universe. Now I took him quite seriously, and I went and had a look at everything, and I came to a lot of conclusions. In 2012, the 11th of September, I published my version of his 369 crack on Google Blogspot. When I understood what his 369 code meant, I basically understood most of how things work in the universe. Now I know that may be hard for you to believe or whatever, but that's all right for now. As time goes, I will show you that my consciousness is not the same anymore since then. Well, to cut a long story short, I realized that his 369 code had to do with maybe most aspects of life, and that it was very relevant to both our electrical industry and to humanity. Now, the 369 code really is a code that shows the division of what I explained to you in the previous video about the self, the brain lobe, and the spiritual aspect of life, which is really the three. The 6 is the physical aspect of life, and the 9 is the resonance that happens between the two. Now, in South Africa, we're having some problems with load shedding. The company that provides electricity is named Eskom. They are having some problems with delivering power to South Africa. So we have a system whereby we have what they call load shedding. And load shedding is really all about sending electricity to different parts of the country and depriving some so that the electricity can get everywhere else. Now we have this load shedding at this stage twice a day. They usually switch the power off for 2 to 2.5 hours at a time. If we have schedule 4 or level 4 load shedding, then they switch the power off for 2.5 hours every day. So this has, above and beyond the COVID whole issue, this has a huge impact on industry, and a lot of companies take strain because you're paying staff for sitting around doing nothing. Now, with me coming from the electronic industry, I've had some very good experience in the electromagnetic industry, where I knew power supplies really well, I knew transformers really well, I knew induction, and I understood how it works. So I moved to the place where I'm living in, which is Sodwana Bay, east coast of Africa, of southern Africa, in the Elephant Coast. Basically, I live in the heart of Zululand. All my neighbors are Bantu, and there's a lot of inequity going on here. To give you an example, we have a housemaid whose husband came to me about 2 weeks ago to come and borrow a block and tackle, which is a device we use to lift heavy things. And I asked him what he was going to do, and he told me that he was going to install a transformer for the community. Now, installing a transformer for a community is really actually a job for Eskom, for the electricity supplier, not for a private guy living across the road in a little shack. Now, he managed to install his transformer, and because of this load shedding situation we have, there is a 2-hour gap whereby anything can be connected to the high powered lines if somebody needed to go there. And obviously he needed to go there, but his job might have taken him a bit longer, and Eskom switched on the electricity and fried him. So I believe this is not such an uncommon thing. Now, there's a lot of illegal connections onto Eskom's lines, which really is putting a lot of pressure on the rest of South Africa. And the reason for that is because the Bantu have this uncanny need to procreate, which is putting a lot of strain on the country. I mean, we're growing by probably, since 1994, consistently, approximately 1 million a year. And that's bearing in mind that there is a reduction, but it still stays around about 1 million a year. I'll give you an example. We were 5 million whites, more or less 5 million whites in 1994, and there were 22 million blacks in 1994. And now we're sitting on over more than 45 million blacks, and the whites have actually reduced to about 4.5 million. We are largely outnumbered, but I suppose we created the infrastructure that is making the country flourish, and now with so many bodies that need electricity, the strain is very high on our system. So Eskom has now gotten to the point where it would seem as though they're going out of business. Now, I'm preparing myself for the worst, because I came to this village, I came to live here so that I could create an off-grid system for myself and get into the energy race, so to speak, where everybody is busy collecting something or designing something or playing around with some kind of device. Now, I'm no different. I started working on a perpetual motion system to provide this house with electricity, and I've had a whole bunch of experiments that have sort of given me enough input that I could go to the next level or take the next step and really experiment with what I was learning from Tesla and many others. And in the process of doing this, I've come to many conclusions. I've designed a little system which I will show you, which really is a battery charger, a fancy battery charger, perpetual battery charger that will just keep batteries full so that you can run a house off an inverter or something like that. But it is not ideal. I would put it along the lines of maybe a step up from maybe solar. But solar is also not the answer. You know, we have maybe sometimes 4 days in a row where we have no electricity, no sunlight here. So solar is really not an option. Wind is an option, but also wind is not always here. So the best way to go about things is just to have a perpetual system running. Now, there's a lot of things on the internet that says it's not possible. It seems as though everybody believes that perpetual electricity is not going to happen. But I've taken it a little step further in that I've gone into looking at radiant energy and at resonance. Now, resonance is Tesla's big thing. That was his discovery that really made him famous. And I've played around with the resonance thing. In fact, most of my writing involves resonance because I've applied resonance to humanity and I've applied it to electricity. So resonance really, to me, is from God. So in the last couple of months, I've been re-evaluating everything that I've done. In 2016, I was busy with a small system where I had a small configuration running off a little battery and basically powering up an alternator which creates the electricity, and inside the alternator I also built in a little motor which now powers up the rotor of the alternator, if you can get any of this, which then in turn will create electricity, and the electricity is created will then in turn, some of it will power or recharge the battery, and then basically it starts running perpetually. Now, there's a lot of tricks and a lot of things that one can do, but in the process of doing this, I discovered that there is a lot of power, a lot of torque power available from magnetic interference with coils. So there is a system called an axial flux motor, which is exactly what I built, which is the axial flux motor is the motor that turns the alternator, and then there's coils on the outer side of the motor's coils, the powering coils, which really actually is the alternator, which generate the electricity. But in 2016, I did something right and I blew the system. They say that all the components are made in Russia because they work with smoke, and when smoke comes out of them, they stop working. But the smoke came out of it because I had too much power being generated in the system and I wasn't prepared for that. But because we'd lost our income, and because we'd closed the business and everything, I really couldn't carry on with this project any longer. It went stale, and it's been standing on my bench for 5 years now. So we have a sponsor that has basically given us the ability to go ahead and try and build a system, because of all the work that I've really done, it would be a waste not to take it any further. So today arrived a little present here, which is in the form of a 10 kilowatt alternator. And we managed to buy it from a company in Johannesburg. It was delivered today. I'm very excited about it, but there's a lot of work ahead. So now what we are going to do, and I would like to tell you this so that I in future will keep you up to speed as to what is happening in this regard. But the idea is basically to let everybody know that there is something that has a very strong possibility that it would be very good. So the intention is to put the axial flux motor onto a 10 kilowatt alternator. Now the axial flux motors is what drives Tesla's cars, it flies aeroplanes, it drives boats. So it really is a replacement for an engine, and I think South Africans may be falling a little bit behind on the technology. I don't know what is out there. I would love to speak to people who actually are busy with actual flux motors and something similar. Because, you know, I think if Eskom closes its doors, South Africa will be in a lot of trouble. And I don't see that is not a possibility. So I would like to, in future videos here and there, I will add a little bit as to how the project is going. And I have to thank the sponsor for his trust and for his understanding in our circumstances. I do not believe that the court case is up to him. I do believe that is up to South Africans, and I refuse to channel any of his support into that. So go and have a look at the affidavit. I will remind you probably every time because it's important. That's why I'm doing these things. I'm also doing them so that South Africans can understand there are other ways, there are other avenues that we can apply. And the system that I am going to build is very, very simple. It's basically just a magnetic motor, but it is very powerful. And if we drive it correctly, then it should power even bigger generators. I mean, if it can fly an aeroplane with 2 people inside, then I see no reason why these would not work on a generator. So in conclusion, do what they tell you. So hit the share, like, subscribe, whatever. If you think it's beneficial, if you think they might find something here that will be beneficial to you, then that would be the right thing to do. Thank you for your time. And have a good day. Bye-bye.